All right, I'm going to run the countdown and then we'll get started early. How does that sound? Hello. I'm here. Yes, Doc Rich is in the house. I am in the house tonight. I just want to make sure that we've got stream going and everything is working like it should. I think it is. I think we're doing okay. Let me just get that music down a little bit. And there we go. That should be a nice little quiet music in the background. No sound, or is it you? Sound and looks good. 3DHP says he's got sound. Hello, all master printers. Devin Bonzer. Hello, Devin. Jose Ferrer. Can you guys hear me okay? You should be able to hear me okay. Yes? No? Maybe? Let's say hi to a few people, and you guys will tell me if you hear me or not. All right. So our friend Tim Postma couldn't stay tonight. He was up early, but let's say hello to Rex Waldy, Jose Ferreira, Nick, Steve Reimer. Who else we got here? We got the Poor Boy channel. I watched his stream today. Excellent stream today. We have, am I missing anybody? We got Shadell 3D, my Screech friend from the East Coast. We got Build It Basement. That's my good friend Kermit. Who else we got here? I'm sure I'm missing somebody. There's Jerry from 3DHP. He had a really good stream today. Loud and clear. Hiya, Richard. There's Tezza. Hello, Tezza. And then we've got Randy DeSerrano. I don't think I've met Randy before, but welcome to the channel, Randy. I do appreciate it. So everybody say hi to everybody else. We got a couple of our guys in monitoring our chat. We are streaming over tonight over on Facebook and on Twitch. So I keep looking down because that's where I've got a big monitor to see everything. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to basically be going over the Voron 2.4r2. I want to do a little bit of an introduction. We're going to start prepping some of our parts tonight. That's why I've got all the steel out. I've got my drill press out. I've got my tapping fluid out. And I've got my 5mm tap all set to go. I don't know why I've got my phone in front of me, but I am going to push it over here so it's out of my way. And we should be good to go. Let me just change this back to the switcher. There we go. Yeah, other than that, let's get one of these going in the bottom. I think we need that one. There we go. You guys know who I am. I'm Richard Cleveland, and this is the first layer. And why am I doing this build? Good evening to Dwit 3D Canada. Hello, sir. Hello. Why am I doing this build? Well, I always planned to do another Voron build. I had built one back in 2021. Was it 2021? Yeah, it was 2021. I started it in 2020, built it, got it working finally in 2021, and then sold it very early in 2022. It was the Voron 2.4 with the afterburner hot end on it. Why did I choose to build one of those? Because I was at a stage in my YouTube career, I guess you could call it, that for lack of a better word. And it turned out that I wanted to build another one. I really felt the need to. And then my good friend Peter, who we all know has recently passed. He passed away at the age of 77 on February 14th of this year. And I thought to myself, you know, I'd already started to collect things like the aluminum extrusion and things like that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to reach out to some companies and see if they can help me, and let's make this a dedication build. And the reason that I wanted to do it as a dedication build was because Peter, when he kind of contacted me originally, he was just a fella in his 70s that was looking to get into a hobby because his hands didn't quite work as well as they used to. He used to do a lot of scroll saw work. He actually was an instructor at Lee Valley Tools, a scroll saw instructor, so he could teach you all that kind of stuff, and he was an amazing artist. But his hands hurt, and he couldn't do it anymore, so he got into 3D printing and reached out to me in I think it was 2020, he reached out to me originally, late 2019 maybe, and he asked me if I could help him with some problems he was having with his 3D printer. Found out that he lived here in Calgary, where I live in Canada. And I said, well, if you'd like me to, I can pop over and have a look at what problems you're having and maybe guide you through it. All you got to do is put on a pot of coffee. So that's what he did. And we got along really, really well. And I wanted to take this build, and I thought, well, I'm going to accelerate it and go ahead and make sure that I can make this in honor of him and his spirit for making and his spirit for always learning. So that's why this has become an accelerated build. I have 10 weeks to get this done because I'm going to be going up against my friend Tim from Dwit 3D Canada. We are going to pit his P1P from Bamboo against the Peter Reynolds dedication Voron 300mm 2.4r2. Now, what do I have planned for this? Well, I've got a few things planned, and I'm going to go over to that camera right now, and let's just have a look at some of the things that I want to do with this build. So here we are on the Voron design, and why did I choose Voron over, say, buying a P1P? Because I like to build things. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to get in there and do things that a lot of other people don't normally do. Okay, so. That's why I chose the Voron. And the 2.4 was one that I'd already built. I was familiar with it. I helped Peter build his in the beginning of 2022. And he built a 350. And it worked, and then it wouldn't work, and then it worked, and then it wouldn't work. And we had a few problems with it. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not an expert on Vorons. I'm just a schmo like most other guys. And it's one of those things that I really enjoy doing. I like getting my hands dirty. I like learning new things. I'm not dead yet. I'm still above the dirt. So I want to make sure that I can always continue to learn and satisfy my need for knowledge, and at the same time be able to teach people like yourselves who aren't into this building sort of thing, or have maybe never looked at building your own 3D printer from scratch, and maybe inspire you to take on a project like this and build yourself something that you just can't find off the shelf. Now let's talk a little bit about what Voron is. Voron is not a product per se. Voron is a community-driven, open source 3D printer. It's taken from a lot of different sources over the years. Open Builds had a real movement into this style of printer. This is what's known as a Core XY, which means that there's two motors that operate the X and the Y in unison. So, and they will, they do that to give you a better print, allow you to print faster. And in this case, with this particular build, this is not a typical bed slinger or a Cartesian based machine. The bed on this one stays standard, and the whole XY gantry goes up and down. So let's talk a little bit about that. So Voron is not a build for the faint of heart. And I'm watching the comments, so if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, because I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about doing this. There's two ways that you can build a Voron. You can go out and you can buy a Voron, not from Voron directly because they don't sell them, but there are several companies out there that have gone out and made kits. And one of those companies is a company called LDO. LDO Motors, they make all kinds of different industrial size and hobby style motors, which are stepper motors. And they also put together all of the things that are in the bill of materials, and we're going to talk about the bill of materials in just a few minutes, that you might need to build this printer. So they collect all that stuff for you. They go to some of the best retailers and get some of the best stuff that they can find for this type of printer. So you can buy a kit, and kits range, depending on where you are in the world, anywhere from $1,000 or $1,100 all the way up to about $2,000, and it also depends on the size. Now there are different printers. As we look at this web page, if we go to the printer section here, you can see that we've got a Voron 0, we've got a Trident, which is becoming very popular right now. I believe my friend over at Build It Basement is doing a Trident. Tim from Dwit 3D just finished his Trident. Then you have the Voron 2, which is what I'm building. Then you have the Voron Switchwire and the Voron Legacy. And then you also have a sourcing guide down here. This sourcing guide is very important because depending on the 3D printer that you are going to build, will determine what parts that you need. And that sourcing guide is important for that reason. So it shows you what companies sell the parts that you need. You can go and source them online if you want, or you can go ahead and just buy a kit from somebody like 3D, or pardon me, KB 3D in the US. I want to thank Chris, because Chris is donating parts that aren't quite here yet, but they are getting here to help us complete this build. While I'm on that topic, this is a good point in the video, because I haven't created the graphic yet, to thank all of the people that are helping out with this build. And first and foremost, I want to thank Dwit 3D Canada. He's printed all the parts for me. He's still printing parts for me, as a matter of fact, to get this going, because I didn't have a printer that was printing really well. Yeah, I know I did the enclosure for the Prusa over here, but it really wasn't capable of printing. And then we ran into some problems with the filament. The filament that we started to use was from Keene Village Plastics. They sent over 2 rolls of their dark gray and a roll of their purple. The purple seemed to work okay, but the dark gray, for whatever reason, Tim had a real problem printing with it. So we abandoned that idea and we just went with black. So our scheme is going to be purple and black instead of purple and dark gray, which are the colors of this show. So first and foremost, Tim from DeWitt 3D Canada, can't thank him enough for stepping up and helping me print those parts. Then Big Tree Tech, or BQ, depending on what you want to call them, they're stepping up with their latest Manta M8P board with their CB1 Raspberry Pi compute board. That's their own version. They're throwing in a 5-inch touchscreen and a few other things to help this build go ahead. Another company here locally in Calgary, 3D Lab Tech. They ship all over Canada and the US. If you're interested in some of their parts, you can check out 3D Lab Tech. They supplied us with all of our pulleys, our belts, and all of our bearings, and some other little sundry things that we're going to get into. LDO supplied us with all of the nuts and bolts and screws that we need for this build, as well as they helped us out with all the motors, and they threw in a Revo Voron LDO version of their hot end. So I'm going to be really happy to use that. And then Fadis stepped up with their Fadis X hot end high flow, which we'll be doing mounts for both of those. So you'll get to see them over time in action. Who else stepped up? I want to thank Build It Basement, Kermit over at Build It Basement. He had an extra 300 millimeter bed with a heater kicking around. And he got in touch with Chris from KB3D, kb3d.com, and they got together and decided that they would throw in all the extras that I needed, including the back panel, the bottom panels. What else? They're setting up a wiring loom from Lineo, and a few other things as well. Between the two of them, they put together a nice little package to help us finish this particular build off. So this build is going to happen sporadically over the next 10 weeks. I'm going to try and have a new episode every Saturday, but we may jump in during the week to get this done in time because I have to test it. First of all, I have to build it, then I have to program it, then I have to test it. Hey, there's 3D Medic Vince. I haven't seen you in forever, my friend. There's SK3D. Hello as well. The Poor Boy channel, I think I did say hello to you. Yes, Core Excellence. Um, Tim says, well, it was finished until I decided to print the new stealth burner cover, LOL. So we're going to be putting a stealth burner on here. We're going to be putting some of the latest technology under the hood. We're going to be using, I have plenty of power supplies around here, so that's not a big deal. The big part of it is that this is really going to be a learning moment for me, and I hope it's going to be a learning moment for you guys. And again, we're going to be talking about all of these companies that came on board to help us out and get this build done so that we can show it off at this year's Maker Faire, which Tim and I will be attending as sort of a group. Tim and I will be using a giant booth, a 20 by 10 foot booth, and we're going to pit the Bamboo P1P against this new Voron build. Steve Build says, hi at the first layer and everyone I remembered. Thank you, Steve Builds. I think this is one of the few times I've seen you on my streams. Welcome to my stream, Steve, and I hope that I can pick your brain at some time over the next 10 weeks about this build. I also want to thank Golden Jaguar 3D. Golden Jaguar, if you guys don't know about Golden's channel, Golden Jaguar 3D's channel, go and check him out. This guy is funny, smart as a whip. He's a genius when it comes to doing firmware with the mainsail and with Clipper. And he's going to be my secret weapon into helping me try and beat Dwit 3D at Maker Faire as we pit these two together. But the most important thing is that this is to honor my friend Peter Reynolds again. And every time I talk about him, I'm sorry, I get a little choked up. But let's go over how you go about making a Voron. Let's go back to the Voron page here. All right, so what we want to do is we want to start, if you're going to do this for yourself, you want to start with the configurator. And you'll see that it comes up with this first little page. And then in our case, we're going to do a direct feed. We're not doing a Bowden tube, we're going to do a direct feed. And we're going to hit next. And then it's going to ask us, okay, upgrading. This is a new build. Give me a full BOM or a bill of materials. I have a Voron 2.4 already. Only give me the new parts I need to source. Or I have a Voron 2.1 or 2.2 already and I want to upgrade. In our case, we're going to do a brand new build. And then it asks you what type of joints you want, and not those kinds of joints. How do you want to put your corners together? And there's three options. You can use the Open Builds corners. You can use the Masumi corners. I could have used the Masumi corners, or I can do blind joints, which are best. They really align this thing the right way. So in our case, we're going to use blind joints. We're going to hit next. Now, cable management. This is where you're going to see all of the where all of your wires are going to run through to keep your printer nice and tidy. So there's the IGUS cable chains. They're an expensive option. You can get them with kits. I believe the LDO kits come with the IGUS cable chains. Somebody can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about that. In my case, I'm just going to use generic chains. It's the same type of chains I used the last time. And what size do you want to build? Do you want to build a 250, a 300, or 350? These are the three most common sizes. There's lots of people out there that are doing Voron builds. There's a lot of great information, and there's a great community built around it on Discord as well. So in our case, we're going to do a 300. So now it says done. So our frame dimensions here, it says is 460 by 480. And our build volume, it will be 300 by 300 by 280. So it's not quite 300 cubed. And that's normal. I mean, it's still a huge size. It doesn't give you the same build volume as, say, a Creality CR10, but what you're getting in exchange for that is a much better, a much faster running machine than you would with one of those off-the-shelf type of printers. DeWitt Canada says, so Richard called in Voron Speed Ringer, huh? Well then, game on. Yes, I did call in. I did call in a ringer because, yeah, you know, it's just the way I am. So as we look at the configurator, we're going to notice down here we can show our bill of materials, we can go to the sourcing guide, or we can download it. I've already downloaded, but I want to show you what's in this bill of materials. And first of all, it starts off with all of the fasteners and all of the quantities of those fasteners that you need. And if you go through this list, if you download it, of course, you'll be able to, you'll get all of these quantities and the proper types of screws that you'll need. And you can source them online. You can buy them as a kit from somebody. You can go to your local retailer and try and get them. A lot of companies now carry specific Voron fastener kits. Then we go into the motion system, and it talks about the different types of shafts, the linear rails, and we are using a good quality linear rail in this case. And then it talks about all your GTs. These are your pulleys and your loops, your belts, your toothed idlers, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to get into all that as we build this out. And then there's this BMG extruder components kit. This kit is for your hot end so that you can build out the extruder. Then it goes into the electronics. Now we're making some changes in the electronics. We will not be using the Raspberry Pi 3 Plus or 3B Plus or better. We are actually going to use the compute module from Big Tree Tech in our build. So everything's going to be kind of in one. That way it's also going to eliminate a secondary power supply, because you'll notice in here that there's two Meanwell power supplies. There's this one here, which is the Meanwell RS25 5 PSU, and that is a 5-volt PSU, and 25 watts at 5 volts. And then there's another one, and this other one is to run the bed and all of the boards and that sort of thing. And this is the Meanwell LRS 200 24-volt PSU. We're actually going to be using a Meanwell LRS 350 24-volt because that's what I have on hand, and I think it will go just fine. And then you'll have a hot end kit, whatever hot end you decide to choose. Mounting rails, I have DIN rails here, so that's fine. I have a lot of the stuff that I need for that. I have a power cord, I have all the fans. Then we go into rubber feet. Now the rubber feet you can find just about anywhere. If you buy a kit, they're going to be in that kit. Then here are all the sizes for the frame that I need, which we have in front of me right now. Then you're going to look at some miscellaneous parts. One of the most important things is this Mobile EP half grease. Now this grease is to re-grease your linear rails, and we're going to get into that when we do the linear rails. You're also going to need some blue Loctite. Now they say the stick here, I don't have the stick. I've actually got the liquid, so I'll be using the liquid in my build. Fume extractor, carbon filter element. I don't have the carbon filter element, but I'm sure I will find one online. I'm sure I can get one. 3M VHB tape, I've got lots of that. I've got a thread coupler, that's no problem. Then you're going to need a series of cables or wires or connectors if you want to make up your own wires. Now I did this on my very first build. I made up my entire wiring loom on my own, and it was not a fun project. This time, thanks to Chris at KB3D, and that's kb3d.com if you're looking for parts. He hooked me up with a Lineo wiring harness, so I won't need any of this, but all this stuff can be found on DigiKey or on Amazon. And then the panels. Now they call for Coroplast sheets here. The problem with Coroplast is that if you are running this, your Voron printer at the higher temperature, so you can print ABS or ASA or nylon, that Coroplast can get really hot and really soft really quickly. So in the case of our build, we are going to be using CBMs or ACMs, yes, aluminum composite materials. We're going to be using aluminum composite materials. That is coming again from our friends at KB3D. And then our clear acrylic panels, they're coming from a local company called Plastic Works. I've known John over at Plastic Works for years. And then there's the build plate. This is the biggest problem that you may have, is the build plate. If you are self-sourcing this, the first time I built mine, I actually went to the company that is recommended in the source guide for sourcing all your parts, and it came out of Germany. And I would say my first build, you know, 2 years ago, 2+ years ago, came in at about, once everything was in, came in at about $1,150, maybe $1,200, if I remember those figures right, after all the shipping and taxes and imports and all that other stuff. But you can get good quality cast beds. You want a cast bed, you don't want a rolled bed. And for somebody who is looking for a bed, make sure that you get a good quality, thick bed that is been designed for the Voron. And again, there are a lot of companies out there. 3D Lab Tech, great source for getting your beds. You can get them at KB 3D as well. So, and then you're going to need a heater for that bed, because it doesn't come with a heater like a traditional. You'll need a adhesive magnet sheet, and you'll need a spring steel sheet. So that takes care of that. And then if you want to go, you can go to the sourcing guide, or you can download. And we're just going to close this out for the moment. Now, you'll find that there are CAD files, and that should take you to a GitHub. And I'm just going to open up this GitHub, cast this one. Come on now. All right. This is the problem with it. There we go. All right. So in the GitHub, you'll find, if you go to Voron Design on GitHub, let me just go back to the first page here. You're going to find a repository of everything that you need for the current machine. And you can see here that there's workflows, there's CAD drawings, there's DFX drawings if you want to have the panels and some of the other things cut by yourself. All the manuals are there, the STLs are there, the firmware, Prusa slicer, and it tells you how to do that. And then there's a little bit of a write-up down here. This is the official release. So this is where you're going to find the official parts for the Voron, okay? All right, so let's see what we got going on here. I love that last desktop picture, looks cool. Actually, I'll tell you how I do that, because some people have asked me about that. And how I do that is I use the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. And the ATEM Mini Pro ISO allows me to bring in HDMI sources. So with a converter box, I can bring in a Chromecast, and most of you know what a Chromecast is. And I bring in the Chromecast, and then I just actually tell my laptop to send that particular page over to the Chromecast. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, so that's how I do that. I'm still working out some kinks here, because I moved a bunch of stuff around today just so that I could do this stream the right way and be able to look at everybody's comments and be able to do things like my lower third, or even this. Yeah, you know, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And then, you know, tell you who I am. And yeah, there's all kinds of interesting goober things that I can do. I still have to work out some things here on my Stream Deck. And if we go to camera 2, you're going to see over here that I've got the drill press already set up. We're going to get into that right away. But I want to show you this. What is this? This is, and I know there's not a great amount of light on this, but what this is a, for lack of a better word, this is a template. This is a drilling template that allows me to drill the holes for all of my pieces of aluminum extrusion in the right spot. So when I go to put this together, I know that because I self-sourced my aluminum, I could have had them do all the holes and do all the tapping for me. But I thought, you know what? people like to know how to do that for themselves. So that's what we're doing here, is we're going to show you exactly how I go about doing this. If you decide this is the way you want to go and you want one of these, just reach out to me and I'll make sure that I put it somewhere where everybody can download it, okay? But we're going to be using this, and it's all just made out of PLA. We've got our drill bit, which is a little bit bigger than 5 mils. This is about a 7 mil drill bit, which fits perfectly between these holes and gives us enough room to get our Allen key in there when we're tightening everything up, and it allows us to give us a little bit of wiggle room when we're trying to put the frame together. So then we have our rapid tap, which is the right stuff that we need for making sure that we don't break off our tap because it gets too hot, and this is going to improve our drilling. I've got a clamp here just in case I need it. You never know, we may need it. Got some alcohol here to wipe off the extrusion after I've done all my drilling and tapping and that sort of thing. So let's go back to camera 1. And now that's cool. Poor boy, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's, you know, I got all the extrusion, and I didn't want to pay to have somebody else drill and tap all my extrusion, because at the end of the day, there is going to be somebody looking for information on how to do this. Because when you self-source, chances are you're going to buy this without having it drilled and tapped. I think you save yourself $60 extra just by being able to do it yourself. And you don't necessarily need a drill press. I just happen to have a little benchtop one. You can use a standard drill like this. This one actually has our 5 mil tap on it, which we're going to be using a little bit later on. But right now, let's get into separating up these longer pieces, which are the pieces that we're going to need. Let me just open up the manual here. I want to make sure that we've got that open. And we are going to stop casting there. And as soon as this manual is done, we're going to open it up, and I'm going to show you why we kind of need to go through our manual a little bit. All right, so here we go. I'm going to cast this one. There we go. All right, so here we have the Voron manual. And if we go through the manual, where we're going to start is we're going to try and follow this as best we can. This is going to be 12 episodes. Hey, there's Matt Gurman. Welcome, Matt. Hi, everyone, he says. We're going to be running a little long tonight. I know I've been at this for half an hour already, but this is the introduction. This is, or the table of contents for the particular printer that we're going to be building. Then there's a little bit of an introduction. If you're printing your parts, that's the one thing about the kits, is none of them come with printed parts. So you are going to have to purchase your printer parts over and above or print them yourself over and above the cost of a kit or self-sourcing, okay? But this will give you an idea of the type of material. They're recommending ABS here, the type of infill, recommended infill percentages, wall counts, top and bottom layers, extrusion width, 0.4 nozzle, and recommended 0.2 millimeter layer height is just fine. There is what's called a printed forward or PIF. There are many guys that actually will print parts for you. And it is really cool when you can get somebody to do that for you. And I utilized Dwit 3D for that. And he's doing all of my parts. We do stuff for each other all the time. Now, there's also some file naming conventions that you're going to want to be aware of. There's primary colors and accent colors. As we have a look here, we can see that the way that they've named things for the way that accent parts are differentiated from regular parts. So I encourage you to download this and have a read through it. You can report issues. I was going to talk about all the nuts and bolts and hammer nuts and heat inserts and that sort of thing that you're going to need, along with all the pulleys, what type of hex drivers you're going to need, and then we get into the blind joint basics. And the reason that I wanted to talk about blind joints, I guess I'm not even on the screen that I want to be on. Let me go to the screen. Thanks, guys, for not telling me. There we go. Yeah, or make a nice friend like Dwit. So let's talk about blind joints. So what are blind joints? Blind joints are when we use a piece of our extrusion and we throw a bolt into the end. We slide it down into the rail of the extrusion, and through holes that are drilled in the extrusion, we tighten it up, okay? So that's what blind joints are. And there's several videos out there. Nero 3D has done many videos on building. My personal view on that is I like him. I like Nero. He's a great guy, but I find him a little dry at times. So I have been watching guys like Build It Basement, Kermit over at Build It Basement. He just makes it fun, and DeWitt makes it fun, and Golden Jaguar, Anthony over at Golden Jaguar 3D. If you're not subscribed to him, man, go and check him out. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, the Poor Boy channel is also doing a Voron build. He's building a Trident right now. And, you know, just like a lot of us, he's just kind of documenting the process and going through it with everybody. So, you know, he's not any better or any worse than any of us. We all kind of stumble through this. Hey, there's 3D Experiments. Welcome, welcome. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I hope I got everybody in here. Okay, so yeah, check out the Poor Boy channel. He's got a fairly new channel. He's only got just under 200 subscribers. If you haven't gone over there yet, please go over and give him a subscribe and follow him. He does live streams, and I believe he does some recordings. So what we are going to tackle today is we're going to tackle drilling the holes that we need to drill and tapping the end so that we can put our screws in, okay? So the ones that we need, we're just going to go to the frame picture for this, which is right here. We are going to need all of our A extrusions, which are these ones right here, and we're going to need all of our B extrusions, and I'm going to show you which ones those are right now. Let's go over that. Okay, so here is our A extrusions. These are our A extrusions right here. These guys are 420 millimeters long, okay? They come wrapped really nice. They come with a label. They tell you how long they are on the label. Really like these. And then our B extrusions, which are these ones are 480. These are the ones that we are going to drill all the way through. And we're going to drill them in two spots so that they have a hole going this way and a hole going this way, because we need that for our blind nuts. Now, the reason I chose Misumi over some of the less expensive aluminum extrusion is because Misumi has, first of all, great quality extrusion. I've never had a bent piece of extrusion from them. The stuff that you can get out of China sometimes can come a little bit skewed or twisted. This stuff that they have is done really well. It's nice and thick, as you can see by the end here. It's very nice and thick. If I go to camera 2, there we go. We can see it's really done nicely. Okay. Now let's get this plastic off, and we'll set things up. So I'm just going to take this off. The one thing I should have brought with me to the table was a knife. I did not bring a knife, but that's nothing. That's nothing a sharp edge won't cure. I'm trying not to scratch the powder coating off of this, which I just did a little bit there, but no big deal. That's my fault. There we go. Be sure to check that they were cut square, okay? There we go. I believe these were all cut square. I believe they were. From here, they do look like they're cut square. Yep, they do look like they were cut square. Thank you for that tip, by the way. I'm just eyeballing these. But yes, they do look like they were cut square. And yep, yeah, I think they were. At least these ones were. So what am I going to start with first and foremost? I'm going to start with my little jig that I made. So I don't have to go through and punch and measure. This is already measured for me. If I put this on the end, now this goes on very snug. And if I put it on the end like so, it matches up with that hole perfectly. And let me see if I can go to camera 2 here. And it matches up with the hole in the center perfectly. So I know that when I drill this hole, it's going to drill in the exact right spot. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make sure it's seated all the way down and all the way back. Now, the reason I brought this out was so that I could add just a little bit of spring tension to it. And make sure it's sitting down nice and flat. All right, so that is good. It's nice and flat. I'm nice and tight on the extrusion, as we can see here. If they are from Musubi, they will always be cut square, John says. Sometimes they're not. The Musubi cut extrusions for my Legacy were not square. It happens, yeah, just saying it happens. It is right, you're right. Let's double check and make sure that we do it right. All right, so I've got this piece of foam here, which is just some leftover foam, that I'm going to put down on top of my plate. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want the plate to mar or damage the extrusion. So I'm going to have to stand up and do this. And I want to make sure that I'm centered before I turn things on. Get a little bit of oil in there. There we go. And that is exactly why we have paper towel here. And we're just going to take our time. Nope. Well, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. Okay, let's try that again. Maybe I'm gonna have to do it like this. Just go slow till you break through. Don't try and force it too much. We'll get a little bit of paper towel here. Wipe that off. And we'll take our bit off. And and we've got a nice clean hole all the way through. Okay, I'm going to switch to this camera so you guys can see what's going on. So we got a nice clean hole all the way through. Really like that. So now let's put this on the other side and do the same thing. Little shot of oil in there. Come on, get in the hole. And there we go. So there's our first one done. And we didn't mar up anything, and everything looks good. So we're just going to continue on with this. I'm going to keep an eye on the how much is a decent drill press these days in the US. I got a local Harbor Freight one. I got mine, surprisingly enough. This one comes from a place like Harbor Freight in the US. We have a place called Princess Auto here in Canada, and it's very much like Harbor Freight in a lot of ways. Oh, look at that. That's not good. Why'd that come undone? There we go. Now I'm going to have to do this the stupid way. You guys are going to all laugh at me for this because I don't know what I did with my chuck. And I need a flathead screwdriver. There's one right there. Let's make sure we got this right. There we go. There we go. It's nice and tight now. That ain't coming apart. You want to make sure that your tools are done right. There we go. We're all the way through. Good deal. All right. I don't know what I did with the chuck for this, and I've been a while since I've been able to find it, so I have to buy myself another chuck key. There we go. And there is our first one done. So let's just go ahead and do all the rest of these. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat if you guys have anything that you want to say. All kinds of names you want to call me. Tell me how stupid I'm being. I'm happy to entertain any of that. Print a new chuck and peak. That's actually a pretty decent idea, actually. There we go. Somebody out there who's a machinist, I am not a machinist at all, is going to tell me that I'm using too much oil. Probably I am, and I have no doubt about that. But you know what? That doesn't look too bad. I'm happy with that. Both sides. Well, this one I haven't done both sides. I've only done one. Both sides. So let's do the other one. There we go. I'm so glad I built this bench because it makes life so much easier. Yeah, oil always makes drilling smoother. I agree with you. So now we've got 2 done, 2 to go. It's not like this this drill press is, you know, millions of dollars. It's not. It's, I think maybe I paid $80 for it. Well, John, if you ever need one of these drill guides, I'm happy to share the STL with you. I'm going to have a ton of shavings to clean up at the end of this. The one thing that you want to make sure of is that you clean out all those shavings so that when you go to put the drilling guide back on, that you've got nothing preventing you. Like we've got a lot of shavings in there. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but we've got a lot of shavings in there. And I should clean those out. Because that will certainly prevent us from getting alignment done correctly. And on the drill bit too, yes. Oop, come back here. There we go. Got those off there. You want to watch, and you should be wearing safety glasses when you do this. I'm not, because my glasses are safety glass. I'm just going to line that up. Good. And we'll just go ahead and keep going. Now I put butcher paper down on my bench so that I didn't get oil all over it. Good thing you're not wearing a tie. That's correct. Good thing I'm not wearing a tie. I never wear a tie. Grabs the spinning bit. Yeah, I know. Okay, John, thanks. Here I thought we were friends. You don't have to point out all my errors, John. But this is the fun part of doing this. For me, this is the fun part. It may not be the fun part for everybody, but for me it is. I'm just going to get those extra filings out of there. One more hold on this, and then I've just got one left to do. This doesn't take long at all. I know this is kind of the boring part of it. Watch what you're doing. I am watching what I'm doing. I always watch what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not a machinist. A machinist would be cringing right now at what I'm doing. I have no doubt in my mind. So there's that one. We got one more to do. And then we are finitoed. At least on this part. That's right, Shadell, you tell him. You tell him. That's your job to watch me. Colin Fruse always wears a safety tie. I'm not Colin Fruse, and I'm not quite as crazy as he is. In my youth, I would have been crazy, but I'm not quite as crazy as Colin is. And my wife is very thankful for that. I believe the word you're looking for is mock. And the last one. There we go. A little bit of cutting oil. You wouldn't see these mistakes in most garages, I don't think. Oh, I got oil all over my lab coat. That's okay. That's what it's for. So I don't get it all over my clothes. All right. So let's go back to camera one. So now we've got all of these done. And they're all in the right spot. And I'm happy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean those up a little bit. There's still little shards of aluminum all over my bench here. And but I want to clean them up with a little bit of alcohol. So that's what I'm going to do. and then I can put them aside. That's a lot of extra extrusion. Well, you know, King Canada has a nice 8-inch one for 118. Okay. You guys are still talking about getting a drill press. So first things first, wipe down the sides with some alcohol, then get it right down in that groove. It'll also help to clean out any excess oil that's in there. Clean up the ends. And I am very happy with that. So there we are. I'm very happy with that. Now I'm going to put this one off to the side for now because I know that one's done and clean. And now I'm going to do the rest of them. Maybe I should get that oil off my hands. I'll dispose of those correctly. Just jointed. Whose kit is it? Oh, just joined. This is nobody's kit. This is a self-sourced Kenneth. I self-sourced all the parts for this build, so this is not one that you can commercially buy. However, you can commercially buy kits. We talked about that a little bit earlier. And it's all right. I'm just going to make sure I got oil off my hands. And then I'm just going to clean these up. And then run that down the center. That will get out any excess of those shavings, so I don't have to deal with them later. And that's pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that. Just take a little bit of excess oil off the end. Same thing with this one. So the next thing that I have to do is I have to tap all of the ends on these guys. And that's the tough part. Because if you don't get that tap just straight, you are going to run into problems. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to start tapping, and then I'll look at some questions. We'll hang out a little bit, and then I'll do the rest of the tapping off screen, so then I can just kind of get them all done. And we'll just get those ends all cleaned up. Make sure that all the shavings are out of the track. I missed something. I'm sure I missed something. The Poor Boy channel, did you get all your printed parts? I don't have them all yet. I have the majority of them from Tim. Tim has gotten me most of the parts. Kenneth says, Brave Man self-sourcing is such a pain. Mine was one of the second-gen form bots, and it was easier but bad. Back then, I had to replace the cheap parts from the bad stuff FormBot sent. Peter's, we were talking about Peter Reynolds earlier, who this build is being done in honor of, and Peter had the same problem. His was probably a first-gen FormBot, first or second-gen FormBot, and we did do a lot of replacement on some of those parts. Why do I keep grabbing way too much? We did a lot of that on his, and it was a real pain in the butt. But at the end of the day, we did get it together, and slowly over time, it just, you know, every once in a while it would just fail. It wasn't because of the hardware, but it did have something to do with some of the parts that were put in there. I know we replaced some of the bearings after a short period of time on his. Then we replaced the hot end because we found out that his X gantry, the bar that goes across the X axis, was twisted. We didn't notice that at first when we first built his. So we did end up replacing that with a Masumi piece, and then it was up and running, and then I don't know what happened to it after that, but it did not survive. And then I got it back late November or mid-November, and he asked me to fix it for him, and unfortunately I lost my friend Peter to cancer, and now it is here, and I'm going to get it back up and running for him. His wife has told me to keep it because she has no need for it, but I will, and I will get it back up and running, and we'll put it into use here in the studio for the first layer, and we'll make good use out of it. It's just the way we're going to do it. So, all right, so now we're moving on to the next difficult part of we no longer need this. This is done. We can throw this literally right into the garbage now. It is a little PLA piece, but it served its purpose. It did what I wanted it to do, and now it's done. So we're going to throw that down into the trash. All right, so now we've got all of these guys to do, our A pillars. We're not going to be doing anything with these guys today because they don't really need to have anything done with them. So we're just going to put them off to the side, get them out of the way. And now we are on to doing our rest of our frame pieces. So I'm just going to cut this. Probably should have done that over here. Self-sourcing is easy, just requires a little effort. I agree. Self-sourcing is easy. It does require effort. Not everybody has the time, though. And that's just, you know, with everybody who's got busy lives, not everybody has the time. And I get that. I totally understand that. John, is he on the first layer Discord? That's something I want to talk about as well. Is we now have a Discord for anybody that doesn't know. We have a Discord, and we are streaming on Twitch tonight as well. I'm trying to get that Twitch audience up. So if you are a Twitch user and you're watching this on Twitch, thank you very much. If not, that's okay too. It's going to be up there for people to watch later on anyway. So what do we do with these guys? Well, these all need to be tapped on the end. Now you're going to hear people say that, yeah, you don't need to tap them, blah, 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 blah. They're fine the way they are. You can just drive your screw in there. No, you cannot. You must tap the end of your extrusion in order to get the proper fit. If you do not tap the end of your extrusion for this build, if you didn't buy a kit, like if you self-sourced like I did, then you have a real problem. And the problem is that that screw is always going to miss thread. You're not going to get it in straight. So by tapping it, you're ensuring that you're going to get a straight shot down in that hole, and making sure that you get it done properly. So in my case, what I'm going to do so it doesn't move, I'm just going to clamp it in here like so. I'm going to turn it a little bit so that I can see it. It's held down. I'm going to hold it as well. Get my drill bit here, or my tap, and just put a little bit of oil on there. Probably have a little too much oil, but better too much than too little. And I'm just going to take my time. Now, my tap is not in straight. I can tell that just by looking at it. I'm going to fix that right now. I'm not using a tap that's made for a drill. I'm using a tap that's made for a tapping kit. And that's my problem. You don't want to go fast on this. You want to just take your time, back it out a little bit, put it back in. Sorry about that sound. Now, I need to get in deeper than that, and this is not working. This little clamp is not working. So I have another clamp around here. I know that I do. Give me a moment to find it, and I will continue tapping this. Talk amongst yourselves for a sec. I know I've got one because I just saw it in here. There it is. That's going to hold that in. Tapping isn't easy. Probably want some oil on that as well. Yeah, I already actually have some oil on it. There we go. And my tap moved on me again. There we go. Oh, that's not right. There we go. That's much better. All right. That looks like I should be able to get all the way down there. Just going to make sure that I can. There we go. I'm happy with that. I got a nice long thread in there. Who loves power tools? I love power tools. Yeah, I've snapped taps before. I have snap taps before. Put a little bit of cutting oil on there. Line ourselves up, center it up. And that is how easy it is to tap. So now that I've got the first one done, I only have 10 more to go. And I'm not going to make you guys watch me do all 10 of those because you don't need to. There you go. So I'm going to put that one aside now. So that's how you basically do it. You should have the proper tap. I don't have the proper tap. I've got a tap that goes into a tap and die set. This is not one that's made for a drill. But I'm going to go ahead and continue on to do these off camera. You guys don't need to see all that, but you know how it's done now. Once you have all of your parts tapped and you have all of your parts drilled, you're ready to go on to the next step. And the next step is building the frame. And that's what we're going to do in our next episode, which I believe we are going to do on Tuesday. We're going to put the basic frame together on Tuesday. We're going to talk about that. And then we're back hopefully on Thursday when some of the materials that I need are in. I hope that they're in by Thursday. What I'm going to need is the bottom plate so that I can put on my DIN rails for a later part in the build. But I have to get that bottom plate underneath the cross rails, because if I don't, then I have to take off those motor mounts for the Z-axis prior to putting that in, because it's a real pain in the butt if you don't do it right. So we are going to follow that. We're not going to put the build plate on until near the end of this series. Once we get started building, it's going to go fast. It's going to go really fast. But once we get to the wiring, that's when we start to slow down again. With the wiring harness that is coming from KB3D, again, I want to thank all those guys, KB3D, LDO Motors, Fadus, Build It Basement, KB3D, 3D Lab Tech, Big Tree or BQ, whoever you choose to call them, Lineo. I want to thank all those guys, Build It Basement, Kermit over at Build It Basement as well, for hooking me up with the build plate and the heater that goes along with it. Thank you very much. But we're going to do that stuff near the end, and that's going to be sort of the biggest part of it. I'm not going to worry about the skirts, that sort of thing. We'll have all the sides on. I'll worry about doing the skirts after we've got it together, and I'll make sure that it looks all pretty and such. The biggest part of this, I think, is going to be using that new board from Big Tree Tech, the Manta M8P. I think that's going to be an interesting part of the build, because on my first one I used I believe I used two SKR 1.4s, the turbos, on my first build along with the Raspberry Pi. And then the Octopus came out, the 1.0 came out, which was supposed to be kind of a replacement for that because you had enough stepper drivers on one board. Once that happened, it was a clear indication that you didn't need to have as much electronics underneath. I'm not going with the little screen. I'm going with an actual 5-inch HDMI touchscreen so that I can use Clipper, what is it called? Clipper Desk or clipper screen. Somebody's going to correct me in the hey there, sausage. Doesn't look square on to me. It is square on. It was sausage. Trust me, I did. Yeah, the blind joints I'm seeing here, build it really. I'm more afraid of the blind joint holes on them and not lining up. If you do it right, John, the blind holes will work out just well. That's why I created the jig that I did, so that I knew all of my holes would line up. If I take that blind joint now and I put a screw into it, it will line up, and I will guarantee that will line up perfect. I will guarantee that it will line up perfect. So if I'm wrong, I'm free to admit that I'm wrong, but I'm gonna stake my reputation as a builder on it, that it is nice and straight, and it's gonna line up, and I won't have any problems with the racking on my frame when we build it on Tuesday. So that's something to keep in mind. And we'll see if I got it right, and I'm pretty sure that I did. But other than that, yeah, it's how long have we been going here? It's like 7:18. We've only been going for an hour, not even an hour and a half yet. Huh, yeah, we might as well hang out a little bit. So what do we got coming up? Tomorrow is Ask for Help, as you guys know. So Ask for Help is the show where I answer your questions about 3D printing. If you're having problems with hardware, software, or materials, I do my best to answer them. I am currently working on a project with Golden Jaguar 3D, Build It Basement, and Dwit 3D Canada. We're looking at creating a new show where the four of us sit down in sort of a round table, and we discuss a topic each week, and we answer your questions about 3D printing, 3D building, printer building, because I think this is going to be one of those things that caters to more builders than it will be to the general overall public about 3D printing. But we are going to cover topics that are for everybody. Tapping with the drill takes confidence. Yeah. You know what? Confidence is something that when I did my first one, I was nervous because I drilled and tapped all of my first extrusion, as well as this kit or this build. And I'm going to tell you that I was nervous as heck to do it, but I started doing it by hand, and I'm an impatient guy. For anybody that knows me, I'm an impatient guy, and I will not sit there and try and crank it by hand when I know that I'm going to do this. I'm going to wobble like crazy doing it by hand. So I broke out the drill, and the last time I think I managed to do all these in about an hour, doing both sides in about an hour, and then cleaning them all up and getting them ready for the assembly part. So it really wasn't bad. I didn't really make any mistakes. All of my bolts went in pretty nice. I didn't have any real problems that way, but it just, grab yourself a piece of aluminum. If you've got a spare piece kicking around, get yourself a 5mm tap and just cut little chunks, put them in a vise. I don't own a vise, which I know, that's stupid. I should own a vise. I don't own a vise, but it would make life a lot easier because it would be, I wouldn't have to use clamps and stuff like that, but owning a vise would probably be the better way for me to go. But with that said, I can still do it by hand. I've done it before. It just takes a little practice, that's all. Just take some practice. Don't do it on a finished piece that you're going to be using all the time, but get some aluminum and just try it for yourself. I mean, you got nothing to lose. And you'll gain a new skill. Borrow my vise, DeWitt says. I didn't know you had a vise. Sorry, man. Well, maybe you can drop it off to me tomorrow when you're out getting breakfast. And then I can finish up the rest of this extrusion. Yeah, I say try it. Just like anything, man. When it comes to, when it comes to 3D printing, I mean, I was deathly afraid of 3D printing when I first got into it. And I'm going to tell you that I was nervous as heck, especially when I got it all together and fired it up for the first time. Man, I was nervous. It just like was crazy to me. And then that nervousness went away when I decided I was going to start building a second 3D printer from scratch. And then I built my third 3D printer from scratch. And then I started buying 3D printers, like a Wanhao. I started with a Wanhao, and then I think I went to another Wanhao. Then I went to a Creality CR10S, then an Ender 3, and now, of course, I've used so many printers, Cartesian style printers, over the last 5 years that, you know, it doesn't bother me anymore. When I did this for the first time, when I built my first Voron, I could not get over it. Let me just, there we go. Oh, look at that, metal flakes inside my shirt. When I started to do my very first Voron, I was very nervous. Like, I thought to myself, geez, how am I going to do this? I got to drill and tap everything, and yeah, could I pay the extra $60 and have Masumi do it for me? Maybe, but I'm cheap, so I'm going to attempt to do it myself. What's the worst thing that could happen? I screw up a piece. I have to order another piece. It is what it is, right? So I went that route, and I got to tell you that when I got it all together, it wasn't bad at all. It was not bad at all. So hopefully Dwit will, when he's out getting breakfast tomorrow morning, he'll swing his vise by my place, and I'll finish up these last 9 pieces. And that would take care of things for me. I don't want to make a mess at his place. Nick, we all have vices like 3D printers. Yeah, we do. You're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that. Sausage says, gotta have a vise. I got a reasonable 100 millimeter one for Australian $80, and they're not too expensive, but so handy, especially for bending metal. I don't bend a lot of metal, but I do cut a lot of wood, and having a vise would be beneficial to me. I would say yes. This is my studio. This really isn't my lab where I have all my printers. That's in another room in the house, but I do all my demonstrations here, so it would be handy for me to have a vise and finish these guys up. So mine is a mini bench clamp vise, but it'll fit the extrusions. Okay, great. Yeah, drop it off to me tomorrow. You're only 10 minutes away. And if you do it before my showtime, I can get them all done before my showtime. That would be great. Thanks, Dwit. Love you, Dwit. Other than that, yeah. Have you guys got any questions about why I'm doing this, or you know, what this means for the future of the show? You know, I'm happy to answer any of them. If you got any questions about anything else, I'm happy to answer that too. I know it was kind of late for a couple of our viewers today because it's 8 o'clock on the Eastern seaboard. Right now it's 9 o'clock, 9:30 on the Eastern seaboard. Yeah, it would be nice if Tim would bring us all brekkie, but he doesn't. That's okay, because he does all kinds of other things for me, and we do stuff for each other. You know, we have stuff and we pass it back and forth, and we try and make things happen for each other, and that's, you know, that's part of what our community spirit's all about. And I've been talking with, like I said, we're trying to put together a roundtable show, which I think would be a lot of fun. It's 2:24 on this side of the pond. Jose says, holy Christmas, what are you still doing up? Shawdell, 10:55 in Newfoundland. I remember that old joke. It was 7 o'clock in Winnipeg and 7:30 in Newfoundland. But yeah, it's one of those things that 1:25 p.m. here in Australia. So it's middle of the afternoon in Australia, so that's all right. But it's Sunday in Australia. Is that not right, Sausage? It's Sunday there. Pretty sure. Tim, eggs and steak for me, please. Matt Gurman wants some eggs and steak. But I think getting together with Tim and Jaguar 3D or Golden Jaguar 3D and Build It Basement, I think having having a great amount of people to talk about 3D printing, and we all have different perspectives on it. So I think it's going to be a fun show. I'm really excited about it being a fun show. And we'll have topics each time that we get together. And we're not going to get together every week. It's not going to be a weekly show. You know, I don't want to infringe on other guys' shows like our good friend Jerry at 3DHP. You know, 3DHP, Jerry and I go way back to when I started this channel. So I've known Jerry 6 years, 5 plus almost 6 years. And Jerry's a great guy. I mean, he's just full of life, and I can't say enough good things about him. He's got a great maker roundtable. So those guys talk about all kinds of things, not just 3D printing. They talk about lasers. They talk about CNC machines. They talk about 3D printing. On occasion, they get into aerospace and rocketry. There's all kinds of different things that they get into, and I really love that about Jerry's show. And there's a little bit of something for everybody over there. And what I think what we want to focus on is on the community of 3D printing, and make it accessible to you guys, and make it very casual. So it's almost like the four of us would be sitting around the same table having a drink and talking about our favorite subject, 3D printing. So I think that's the direction that we're going into. And from time to time, we'll bring on a guest that will be our fifth wheel, and or our spare tire. Although, you know, some of us already have spare tires. Looking at you, Tim, and me. While the other two guys are young, they don't have that same problem, but they'll get old like us, and you know that'll happen to them. But yeah, we want to bring this as a discussion and bring you guys along for the ride, and really have a lot of fun doing it. Now, there's no set date as to when it's going to start. Right now, I have put up a Discord. Tim or Build It Basement. Actually, I've got to do this. I got to let me get over here. I've got to. Come on. Come on. There's sausage. Okay, let me, why is this not allowing me to do what I want it to do? I hate computers sometimes, I really do. There we go. Okay, so there we go. And then is Golden Jaguar still here, or is he gone for the night? Did I miss him leave? I hope I didn't miss him leave. If you're still here, Golden Jaguar, just say something. Just say something. Anything. But yeah, the idea is that we're going to have a discussion and bring you guys along for the ride, and have fun with it. And I think it's not something that's going to happen every week. It'll probably be something that happens bi-weekly. And the idea is that we'll have it, we'll rotate. So one week it'll be on my channel, one week it'll be on Dwit 3D Canada's channel, Build It Basement's channel the following week, and so on and so forth. And then you'll find the replay a couple days later on all of our channels. So it's a way to build our community. It's a way to cooperate together. It's a way that maybe we can start doing challenges and giveaways. Build It Basement, you should be a moderator now. And Dwit, if you can throw a link to the Discord in the chat, that would be great. Discord has been made available to everybody right now, so all of our people can be a part of our Discord. It is still being fleshed out. There's a lot of different categories there that have nothing in them yet. So please, if you find a category and you've got a question or you want to put some information in them, please go ahead and put some information in them. I think that's only helping the community overall. Introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and go that way. John, if you put the link here, it will stay in the history and become public. That's fine, John. I don't mind. I don't mind it becoming public. Will you all be together live or like on Teams? We will be not together. Tim and I live in the same city. We're actually only about 10 minutes apart. But Golden Jaguar, I believe, is down in Florida, and Build It Basement is in Maine. So yeah, we'll all be getting together, and we'll probably go through Teams or through StreamYard or something else. That way, if we have a guest come in, we can bring them in fairly easily. Is it private by invite? I don't know. I thought I've been making it. I made it public in Facebook, so anybody in our Facebook group could join. John, there's a link over there. Matt, Overlord of the World, LOL. Matt German. Matt, you are the Overlord of the World. You are. Yeah, we do. Yeah, you can do streams over there. I'm still learning a lot about Discord. 3D Experiments Discord says no text channels available. That seems weird. There's lots of text channels there. They're open to everybody. Again, I'm new to Discord. I'm still learning it. So if we've got any Discord experts in the chat and they want to reach out to me and help me with it, I'm happy to take your help. I did kind of flesh it out a little bit, but there's lots of different areas. There's areas for 3D printing, different machines, different manufacturers. There's a whole area about filaments in there as well. Jose Ferreira says I don't have access. Okay. I sent you a PM about it earlier, John. Yeah, I saw that, John. Let's get together next week and we'll get it figured out. Tomorrow I've got another live stream. Ask for help at 2 o'clock. So I don't know that I will be able to make it. And then after my live stream is Dwit 3D Canada. So I go from 2 to 3, and then Dwit goes from 5 to 8, I believe. 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Yeah, just hang on, Jose. I will get you in there. Trust me. Send me a private message on Facebook, Jose, and I will make sure that you can get into our Discord. Because I know that there was quite a few people that are not quite a few. There's a handful of people in there now, but yeah, it's my turn to ask for help. That's right, John. You're not wrong about that, and I'm not above asking for help at any time. I will take people's help. But yeah, just send me a private message, Jose, on Facebook, Richard Cleveland, or if you go to our Facebook group, which I'm sure you're a member of, which is the first layer, then no check channels here too. Okay, Sausage. Send me a message, and then I can get you guys in there and we'll get it opened up. It shouldn't be by invite only. I don't know why it is, but there should only be a couple of places that you guys can't go, but I will get it all figured out. And like I said, I'm not an expert in Discord. I read a few pages and set it up. Hey, there's Golden Jaguar. Good. I'm glad you're here because I need to highlight your name and I need to make you, there you go. Is now a standard moderator for your channel. Okay, good. And DeWitt and Build It Basement should be also. Why is Build It Basement not? Yeah, he's a standard moderator too. Okay. Yeah, he's a standard. Okay, good. I got those guys. Golden Jaguar, hey brother. So, yeah, it's I'm gonna finish these up tomorrow once I get Tim's vise. You guys saw how I did it with the one, so I'm not gonna do all 10 of them with you. That's just a pain in the butt, and you guys don't want to see me drill or tap holes for the next 25 minutes. Maybe I need to send out an invite link. Okay, 3D experiments. Yeah, that might be right as well. There we go. Sorry, I'm late. Fell asleep. No problem. No problem. But yeah, I wanted to give Build It Basement and Golden Jaguar moderator access to my YouTube channel, because then they can put links, and I'd like both you guys to put your links to your YouTube channels as well. And somebody can do a link to the Poor Boys channel as well. If you guys could, that would be great. And that would help. That would help a lot. Yeah, story of my life too. I'm gonna be heading to bed here pretty soon myself. It's I know it's only 7:30 here, but I get tired pretty easy. I was up pretty early this morning too, so. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I think this build is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking totally forward to it. I'm looking to bring you guys along for the ride. I hope that you'll join me and ask me questions about it. I'm not going to have all of the same stuff that, say, Kermit over at Build It Basement has. I will have some of that stuff. And then we'll show you how to do upgrades on it. I think that's a good way to learn as well. My channel has always been about learning, and it will continue and remain that way, to be a learning channel. So if somebody is here and they can put links to Build It Basement's channel, Golden Jaguar's channel, Dwit 3D, who is on tomorrow. I don't know when Build It is doing another video or when Jaguar is going back live, but you guys can put links to your channels there, please. Please put a link, somebody put a link to the Poor Boys channel as well. I'm going to talk with John probably maybe tomorrow night, John, if you're available. After my show is over, maybe we can talk and I can get you into the Discord and you can help me clean that up and get it set up properly. Maybe we can do that. That would be a good thing. Okay, thank you, John. I will reach out to you after my show tomorrow. Tomorrow's show will be about an hour. We'll answer questions. I've got some questions I want to answer for people. There's DeWitt Canada's. Oh, just because we boosted your channel once doesn't mean we're not going to boost it every time we have a chance to, the Poor Boy channel. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to put up with it on this channel. My mandate is not to just promote myself. I think, and maybe this is just me being me, but I think that when channels get to a certain size, they don't really give a rat's behind about anybody else. They just want the attention, I guess. That may be a bad way of saying it. I mean, listen, I'm at 34,000 subscribers, and that's not to toot my own horn. That's to let people know that, you know, I've been building this for 5+ years. It didn't happen overnight. I've been building this for a long time, and I want to take friends and people that are good to the community and good for the community, and I want to help them build their channels, because their information might be different from mine and will be just as important to others as my information is going to be. And we all do things in a different way, and I think that is a great way to, first of all, build our community, because we're all in the same boat together. And anybody who doesn't think that is in the wrong hobby. I mean, so many times I've been in hobbies or been part of different communities that build walls around themselves, and they don't want to share any information. They don't want to teach you anything. They're afraid of giving up their trade secrets. So they don't tell you anything. You know, years ago, I used to be a fairly good artist. I could draw really, really well. And I studied under a guy, and at one time I had a chance. I could have been drawing comic books for a living, and I was also, at that time, I was in the entertainment business as a DJ, and I was doing that full time, honing my art craft. On top of that, chasing women, drinking alcohol, and getting into other libations that I probably shouldn't have, and decided that I wanted to live the rock and roll lifestyle, and gave up an opportunity to draw cover for Marvel Comics back in the 80s. And I really shouldn't have done that. I mean, I could have had a completely different life and maybe not be here right now, but I am happy with the life that I had. It afforded me a lot of opportunities. I've built props. I've done all kinds of different things over my lifetime. And I wouldn't trade any of it for a second. I mean, it's made me who I am now. And I believe that as a community, if we keep sharing those little tidbits amongst us, we only get stronger. And then we can pay that forward. And I'm a firm believer in paying forward. Which Marvel franchise? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Let's just say it had to do with a friendly neighborhood person. How's that? Is that close enough? Yeah. It's yeah. Pooh. No, it wasn't Pooh. That's a whole different franchise. But I did have the opportunity, and I blew it. And do I regret it? Sure I do. Sure, absolutely I do. Would I try and get that back? No. It's just like I wouldn't go back on stage now. I wouldn't grab a pair of drumsticks. I wouldn't go up and do stand-up comedy. I wouldn't do any of that kind of stuff anymore. Do I want to go up and spin records for people? No. I'm way beyond that. I'm almost 60, and I lived that life. I'm happy doing what I do now, and I want to help people that are getting into this hobby, and there's always somebody new coming in. And if you can pay the information forward that you've obtained, and 9 times out of 10, you're getting it from somebody else too. If you can pay that forward and help somebody else that doesn't quite understand what they're doing, and maybe help them correct the problems that they're making in their 3D printing hobby or journey, that's going to pay dividends back to you. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me for help just because they heard through somebody else that I could help. And that's how I was able to meet an amazing man like Tim, and amazing man like Peter Reynolds, and who this build is all for, or who this build is all about. So maybe you could tell us a joke once in a while. I could, but most of the jokes I used to tell are not safe for the internet. So telling you those jokes, I could get demonetized really quickly. Not that the monetization on this channel is my key for doing it. It's not. What I make per month on this channel is not going to keep a roof over my head. Let me just put it that way. It does support the channel. It supports any kind of new gear that I may need. But yeah, really, the internet's pretty greasy these days. Yes, but YouTube has rules. Dwit says, my favorite food when in Jamaica is KFC, LOL. You know, it's funny. I've been to a lot of places in the world. I've been to Japan. I've been to England. I've been down almost all over the U.S. From time to time in my career as an entertainer and working with bands and things like that. And I got to tell you, man, there are some very naive people around the world. When you say Canada, first thing that comes to mind is polar bears. With some people, not everybody, but some people, first thing that comes to mind is polar bears. The second thing that they ask you is how do you keep your igloos warm? I did get asked that by a young lady when I was in San Francisco one time. She asked me where I was from. And where I grew up, this is story time now. I'm starting to feel like I'm doing the LM show, but where I grew up was north of the 53rd parallel. So if you look on your globe or on a map, you'll know how far north that is. And we have two seasons there, winter and not winter, or winter and mosquito months. There's no real fall, there's no real spring. I mean, it changes that fast. But I'm not gonna, cry about walking uphill both ways, going back and forth to school for 20 miles, because that wasn't it. Snow was cold. 40 below was a normal day in the winter. So yeah. But it's having people ask you where you're from when you go to different parts of the world, and they don't understand that Canada is not the tundra that they think it is kind of funny. And then you get guys like me who can do somewhat of different voices or different accents. And I've done those in the past, and some of the accents, and I keep looking down. I'm not looking into the camera because I'm watching the chat go by, but I do different accents, and I can fool people at times to say, "Oh, I'm not from Canada. I'm from so and so," and they will, wow. And then, you talk in your normal voice and they figure, oh, wow, what is this guy? So if I was on the internet in the 80s, I'm young. The internet in the 80s. There really wasn't an internet in the 80s. I remember the internet when you still had to log into MIT to get on the internet. Or that was the intranet at that time, when dial-up modems were around, and you heard that squawking and squeaking. I have funny story. I've told this story before, but my first computer was in a wooden box. I bought it off the back of Popular Science magazine. So yeah, Shawdell's in Newfoundland. The funny thing is all of my family is from Nova Scotia, so we're almost neighbors. In terms of my family. CompuServe, oh my God, Z80s. I go back even way before the Z80s. My first commercial computer was a VIC-20. I did have a TRS-80 Model 1 Level 2 at one time from Radio Shack. I've owned Commodore Amiga. I built my first 286. Built my 386, my 486, and I've built every printer I've ever owned, or every computer I've ever owned since that time. I never owned it was an Apple. My first computer was the Steve Jobs box special, as I like to call it, and used to get a box of parts. When they were making computers in the garage, and it was all parts, and they weren't putting them together. You could get that as a kit and order it off the back of Popular Science magazine. You could also order submarines off the back of Popular Science magazine, but they were cardboard. So C64, Tandy 1000, yeah, I remember those as well too, yeah, absolutely. My grandfather was from New Brunswick. Oh, that's cool. New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, PEI are all places that are beautiful to go to. And if you're into seafood, no better place in the country to go. No better place. If you're into salmon and that kind of thing, the West Coast here out in Vancouver is probably the best place to go, all along that coast. Original bomb in a box. Yeah, original BOM in a box, that's for sure. Nick, yeah, it was those computer days. X-ray glasses, I remember those. The cardboard glasses with the little hole in them. Yeah, I remember those. I was a big action figure guy when I was a kid. My very first action figure, I don't know, some of you guys may remember this, was Blastoff, or Billy Blastoff. That's how far back I go. Billy Blastoff was probably no taller, probably half the height of that model right there. You put batteries in him and he would walk, and he had a little spaceship that you could put him into, and it would drive around and stuff like that. Yeah, it was, and then I went from that to G.I. Joe. And my G.I. Joes were the Action Force G.I. Joes. So my G.I. Joe was a 12-inch G.I. Joe, of course, with the Kung Fu grip and the eagle eyes and the real hair, and I was a man's man, and I was part of the adventure team when I was a kid, so I had the dog tags and all the whole nine yards. I was a big fan of that. And then Star Wars came out and changed my entire life. Yeah. Pitfall and baseball. You know, I never had a lot of console games when I was a kid. Never a lot of console games. Like Atari 2600, never owned one. My mother was not into that kind of stuff. Like, I had to beg, plead, borrow, steal to get a VIC-20 when it was available. I love all that old stuff, and I've got some stuff here that reminds me of when I was a kid. I've got some action figures here from Star Wars. They're the re-released 6-inch ones from the Black Series, but they're on the classic cards. I didn't get all the first run of them. I think I have Luke, Leia. Who else do I have there? I have Luke, Leia, Obi-Wan, and Darth Vader. I would like to get some of the other ones. Hockle says, I had the Jeep for my 12-inch G.I. Joes, and it was big. I had the training center, I had the chopper, and I had the dune buggy, the 6-wheel dune buggy. Those are the three that I had. 3 play sets that I had for my G.I. Joes. And I had the dark-haired G.I. Joe. I had one other play set that I got from sending in box tops or cookie or cereal tops. I think it was the Spy. No, not the Spy. It's the one with the black dinghy and the radio, and he had the little black toque and the black clothing. Yeah, so my favorite toy from my youth, the 301 electronics kit from Radio Shack, R.I.P. You know, Kermit, I got to tell you, one birthday I got the radio kit, the AM/FM radio kit, and it was a sleepover at my house, and all my friends were there, and we couldn't get this thing to work. We followed the instructions. We all got together. We put it all together, and it wouldn't work. Like, I couldn't get a radio station, couldn't get any sound. So me being the dummy or the genius I thought I was, went and got an electrical plug, you know, with a piece of wire that was stuck to it. And I wired it up to the negative and the positive. I plugged it into the wall, and I blew the circuit in the house. My mother was not impressed. She was not impressed at all. I had a friend whose mother worked at Kenner Toys. Oh, we had the set of Star Wars and G.I. Joe to play with, and the sets that were never opened and stored. I'm sure they are worth a lot today. They sure would be. Yeah, absolutely they would be. I also had Big Jim from Mattel. I don't know if you guys remember Big Jim. He was sort of the, he was less the fantasy character and more the athlete, because he had that karate chop and that kick that he could do, and he had his own little adventure van and some buddies, and then they kind of went off the rails with him and gave him sort of a sci-fi super spy reimagining, and then it all kind of went downhill. But the only small action figures I ever had was the original Star Wars. Never had Stretch Armstrong, never. I had a Gumby, yeah, absolutely had a Gumby, but I never had Stretch Armstrong. Again, I never had guns as a kid either, like toy guns. My mother was dead set against us having toy guns. So I never had any kind of toy firearm, BB gun, even space guns she didn't like because it had that word gun. My mother was a nurse. That probably had something to do with it. $6 Million Man figure. One of my best friends had the $6 Million Man when I was a kid. Loved it, absolutely loved it. I loved that show growing up, The Bionic Man or The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman. Loved those shows. You know, there's lots of great stuff that we don't have today. Like you go back to the 70s when I was a kid, late 60s and the 70s when I was a kid. And no, I never had a cap gun. No, never had a cap gun. But you go back to those days and you think, okay, what were the popular toys for me? Well, it was G.I. Joe, it was Big Jim, and they were not dolls, they were action figures. My neighbor had dolls because she had Barbie and Ken. Those were dolls. Not what I had. I had action figures, man. They had guns of their own. Snakes and stuff like that. Thundercats. Never had any Thundercats when I was a kid. I was already an adult, I think, when Thundercats came out. I seem to remember Thundercats when I was as an adult. Never saw it as a kid. Space 1999 was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid, along with Star Trek, of course, on television, and Battlestar Galactica. I remember seeing that in the theater before it became a television series. Sure, it was your neighbor's doll, Gary says. It was. But yeah, He-Man was long after my time. I was already an adult when He-Man came out. But not to say that I don't like the Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie. I think that was an amazing cheesy piece of cinema. But we've totally gotten off topic. Totally. But Dukes of Hazzard, loved it. Incredible Hulk, loved it. Loved the original live-action Spider-Man as well. I thought that was good. Flash Gordon. Yeah, all that stuff. I love those old serials, too. I'm a big fan of that the old serials, like the old Batman serials. That's why I'm a big fan of Batman the Animated Series. And anybody that you talk to will tell you I'm a huge Batman fan. Anybody who knows me at all knows that I'm a huge Batman fan. And there are pictures, and maybe I'll bring them out for another stream, but there's a picture of me dressed as Batman for a charity event. And I used to do those every once in a while, dressed as Batman. And it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed doing it. And it was all for the kids, and the amazement that the kids have when they see you for the first time as Batman and they don't know who you are. Just the smiles on their faces, just, you can't beat that. You just can't beat that. If you have the opportunity, if somebody says to you, would you be a superhero for a day? Do it. Do it. Because you're going to bring joy to so many people. Absolutely so many people. And that, when I was a young guy, I was selfish but when I got a little older and I started getting into, doing charity work and things like that, it sure changed my entire perspective on how to deal with people. When you can light up a child's face or somebody who has a disability, disabilities to me, people that have special needs, I don't see them as disabilities. I see them as people with amazing hearts and amazing souls. They will be the ones to inherit the earth at some point in time in the future. But, and that's why I do what I do now. I mean, I want to give back to everybody. My goal is to pay it forward. And if I can pay it forward, then everybody else can pay it forward. And if anything, I would ask that people maybe not learn from me, but keep in the back of their mind that if you can do something for somebody, and you don't have to be rewarded for it, because the smile or the thank you 9 times reward enough, 9 times out of 10. And it's very rare. Like with Peter is a great example, because when I met Peter, he was already in his 70s. And I went over and spent the afternoon with him, a good 2-3 hours the first time that I went over to his house. Maybe I can get all my taxes back. No, you're never going to get your taxes back. But this story with Peter, when I first met him, I went over and he reached into his pocket and he pulled out $100 and he wanted to give me $100. And I said, no. I said, I don't want your money. I said, you had a problem. I'm able to fix it. It didn't cost me a ton of gas to get over here from my house. So if you have any problems, just give me a call. And when it comes to people that, especially I know that need the help, aren't arrogant, and just are very sincere about who they are and what they do. And this is why I'm gravitating so much to people like Build It Basement and Gary T and Dwit 3D Canada and Golden Jaguar. These are all people that I have found in my life recently that all have that same mentality. If I'm wrong, they'll correct me on that, but I think that, I do wear my heart on my sleeve. Absolutely, I do. I absolutely do. I'm not a religious man. Not at all. I was brought up Catholic, but I'm not a religious man. I don't, I will publicly declare I'm an atheist. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but if you have faith, if you have something to believe in, that's amazing. I don't begrudge you that whatsoever, and I will never, ever tell you that you're wrong. Just so we're all on that same page. Yeah, Peter, it was that kind of guy that you just kind of gravitated to, and we became very close, and we just hang out. There are days he'd phone me up, say I got something wrong with my printer, and the funny thing is that I could go over in 3 minutes it's fixed, and I would look at him and go, you just wanted me to come over for coffee. Why didn't you just ask me to come over for coffee? He says, because I liked having an excuse to have you come over. So, we would hang out. And if I was doing a live event, like at a maker fair or something, he would always come down. And he came down last year before he got real sick. And I'm going to miss him this year, big time. I miss him now. So, 40-20, 50-30, 60-40. I spent a lot of time in the church as a Catholic child, midnight mass as well. Yeah, I was brought up Catholic. I was an altar boy. I just have a hard time believing that there's something or someone or some entity out there that is all-seeing, all-knowing. And that's just my opinion. But, to each his own. And again, like I said, if you have faith, great. That's awesome for you. That's and I say keep your faith. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let anybody convince you that your faith is not worth having. Yeah, you're only as hot as you want to be. The more you learn, the less you age. Well, I don't know. I'm looking pretty old these days. I'm looking pretty old. Yeah, I mean, we're around in 2 hours here. Actually, we've gone over 2 hours. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you guys for all joining me tonight on this first getting things ready. And I'm going to go ahead and finish these up tomorrow. When I'm sure Tim's going to bring me his little vise, so I'm going to finish these up tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, we'll put this frame together. We'll see exactly how well I did in terms of the drilling and the tapping, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. We're going to be using the hardware kit from LDO to assemble this. So all of our screws and nuts and bolts are all going to be that nice bright silver. on black, and our parts are black and purple. We'll talk a little bit about those, and we'll get things going. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow at 2 o'clock for Ask for Help. Bring your friends. We'll get this thing with the Discord sorted out. It is up. It's there. And I think that we are going to do great together with Build It Basement, Golden Jaguar 3D, Dwit 3D Canada, and myself. We'll let you guys know. We're going to use the First Layer Discord to make all that stuff announced. We'll use Facebook, and we'll use all of our streams to make sure that you guys are well informed, okay? You guys all have yourselves a great night. I know it's 10 o'clock in some places in the States, and it's mid-afternoon in other places, and way early in the morning in some other places. So go relax, have yourselves a Saturday night drink, watch a movie, snuggle up with somebody you love, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow at 2 p.m. for Ask for Help right here on the First Layer, and we'll be strictly on YouTube tomorrow. All right? Now, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. How do I do this? I know there's a way to do it. Wrong mouse. I got too many mice on my table. There we go. There we go. Hey, if I didn't say this, remember that the First Layer is always your foundation to a great print. I'll see you guys tomorrow.